Anyone else?
Welcome, Mayuko and audience members. Mayuko Fujino has accomplished so much in her ongoing journey as an artist and social observer. Looks like a lot of her friends are here, so you know all this, but Beakuency, Meet Bird People in Columbia County, is her celebration of birds and birders, scientists and conservationists, to name a few. A self-taught paper cutout and stencil artist from Japan, now based in Columbia County, Mayuko is inspired by traditional Japanese stencil textile designs and the Menge folk art movement. She makes non-toxic pigments from natural substances like rocks and plants. Living in the Hudson Valley, how can one not be inspired by nature? Artist or not, nature is what sustains us, delights us, and bestows upon us a huge responsibility to care for and preserve it. Focusing on her interest in birds, Mayuko joined the Alan DeVoe Bird Club and is now on the board, interacting with fellow birders and discussing bird-friendly practices with farmers. And once a month, she hosts a radio interview program on Wave Farms WGXC, based in Greene County. Her commercial art has included work for Williams-Sonoma, Swarthmore College, the Audubon Society, and others. I admire her artistry, her philosophy, her commitment to the earth, and how she brings them all together.
Thank you so much for coming, everybody. I kind of miscalculated today's event. I was going to reach out to people who don't know much about birding. Looking at this room, there's a bunch of professionals, so I'm gonna have to preach to choir. But, well, and thank you so much for the wonderful, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. So my name is Mayuko Fujino, and I'm originally from Japan, and I became an American citizen this year, and I live in Kobe. And I make stencil paintings, and I've been doing it for 30 years. Well, I've been making art in many forms for 30 years. Now stencil is my primary medium. And today I want to introduce my art zine project. Some people ask me what even a zine is. It's a magazine zine, but it's more of a self-publicated, like a small circulation, more of a DIY type of thing, zine. And so this is only 250 copies, and it's all me doing it, so it qualifies as a zine, I think. And so it's an art zine project focused on local bird conservation. Beakuency, Meet Bird People in Columbia County. It's an art zine that features interviews with local birders and illustrations that I created inspired by those conversations and by their stories. Topics include local citizen science projects, birding tips, and actions community members can take to help birds in their own neighborhoods. And despite the divisive times we live in, the Columbia County birding community has worked together across party lines to protect birds. And this project celebrates that powerful connection that birds create for us, regardless of our other differences, and highlights and advocates for such alliances that are emerging at the local level. And I'm talking as if I know, but it's been happening way since before my arrival, which was in 2022 in Columbia County. And today I want to talk, so there are several topics that this zine touches on, but I specifically want to talk about citizen science. I only became familiar with the idea of citizen science when I joined the Alan DeVoe Bird Club which is the local bird club of Columbia County. And I didn't really know how the citizen science works, like what it's like to be actually in the field and how it works. And what I came to realize, well, first of all, the concept of citizen science is that the nature conservation work depends on large, long-term, wide-ranging collection of data. And volunteers contribute observations, and so that scientists can have all that necessary information to find the trends in biodiversity or habitat loss or climate impacts with far greater accuracy. And what I didn't know in the past is that the number of professionals who are paid to do this kind of survey job is incredibly small. So it's like 2 people from DC covering like a bunch of states or regions in New York State, and everybody else is volunteers. So it's like that. That's the chart that I'm trying to explain. The number of biologists being that tiny, small, blue triangle, and the rest of the pyramid is all volunteers. And so that's something I didn't know until I started participating in it. And the first time I came to really realize that was when I took part in New York Breeding Bird Atlas 3 that took place since 2020 to 2024, I believe. It's a citizen science project that aims to build an inventory of all the birds breeding in New York State. And when you look at that map, I took that map from their website, I think it's pretty clear that no matter how competent professional the paid people could be, it's impossible for them to cover all that area by themselves. But those blue blocks, that are dark blue blocks, that means somebody went there and spent several hours watching or listening to birds and reported sighting. Whoever happened to be there went there and do that, because it's easier for somebody who's already there to do it rather than technicians traveling all over the state. And so if you cover this one block, then that makes a difference. It makes the difference of that block being covered or not. And so there's that set of data produced from your little, you can be taking a little stroll around your neighborhood, and then this project would have had that data. And so for a volunteer participants, the assignment is usually quite simple and very specific. The coordinators always tell you exactly where to go and what to do. And this photo I took during the Winter Raptor Survey that's coordinated by the DEC. They organize it every year to monitor feeding areas for raptor species in decline. And they tell you to go to a field like that. I took this photo in February, so it's pretty cold, but they tell you to just stand there for like an hour until it gets dark, and the birds may or may not appear, and even if it did, it could be like really tiny, like we're looking at like things like this above the mountain line, and then we write it down, and that's what they ask you to do. And at first I wasn't sure if I was like qualified to do this kind of survey work, because I don't have any, I'm not an expert birder yet, and I don't have any background or education in natural science. And so I was a little bit nervous about what if I misreport something, or am I really qualified to do this kind of survey work? But when it comes to citizen science, there's pretty much no replacement for you. You are indispensable, not because you're special or better than other people, but because the fact that you can go there and stand there for an hour and watch things and write down things, that's what's special, that you happen to be here. You happen to be here today, here, now. That's what's special about it. And so, if I can go there, stand there in the cold, usually with my friend Mary and Sol sitting there, and just look at it, the little dots here and there, then that's what the data can produce or not. It's depending on that. So I know the word empowerment has been beaten to death, but this I feel really empowering, because I know this little action I do actually makes a difference, because it technically does. And so, but when I say you are indispensable in citizen science, I really mean it. Because as I became more familiar with the citizen science project, the bird survey project that's happening in Columbia County, I started to notice that it's always the same people. I keep seeing the same faces. Like no matter what bird survey project, it's always the same people. And so just like in the Star Trek, in the original Star Trek series, the USS Enterprise under Captain Kirk is set to have a crew of around 430 people. And yet it's always the same people who are away on the away mission. And so it became clear to me that the citizen science triangle in Columbia County specifically, and specifically bird-wise, is more like that one on this slide rather than the first one I showed you. In the first slide, that's more like, I don't know, that size is maybe natural, National Audubon Society level of pyramid. But Columbia County is more like this little triangle. And what I didn't know in the past was that, you know, this same away mission team have been doing many bird survey projects for many, many decades. And again, it's been conducted by a very small number of people. For example, the eagle counts that they count, they survey the eagle population and its health along the Hudson River for a long, long time. That had been Nancy Kern, who's been doing like since the ancient time, as far as I know. And Marian Saul, again, she took over recently, and at this rate, she's gonna have to take it for another century or something. And so the question is, you know, where's everybody else? Like, why is it always the same people? Like this Captain Kirk, maybe the Rachel of DC if it's a raptor, winter raptor survey, or it could be Julie Hart if it's a bird breeding atlas. But it's always, again, like this is probably the Marian Saul. Like this is probably
I
like...
want to be Scotty.
Yeah, I chose it as Scotty. You know, this could be Chris Short. This could be like Kathy Snyder. And like this could be like, whatever, like Joni Choi. So it's like always the same people. It's always the same away team. And so the question is, where is everybody else? Where's the rest of the crew? And that question is what led me to make this art scene project. It was to, you know, to find out where the rest of the crew is, because I know there are people who love birds and who watch birds or who listen to birds and excited about it, because I keep meeting them, like because I make art, you know, bird art, sell bird cards, and people buy stuff from me, and they're really excited to tell me about, like they said, they would always say they see the red-headed woodpecker in their backyard. And inside my mind, I'm like, no, there's no way you saw it. Because I live in Columbia County, and now I know that we just don't see them there. So it's very likely it's a pileated woodpecker. But the fact that they're very excited and that they love seeing birds, that means they're at least on the Enterprise, but they're not on the away team. So I thought that maybe it's not the lack of crew, it's the connection that's missing from our community. And so this zine is going to be distributed for free in Columbia County at several locations, including this very place, the North Chatham Free Library. Thank you for the support. I don't know where everybody went. Oh, there. There will be a distribution station, hopefully here, and I'm hoping Kinderhook Memorial Library. And it's going to be in the system, the library system, so people can borrow it from whichever the library branch that's close by. And there will be some other locations that I'm going to distribute this magazine. And also, I wanted to talk about how this experience with the citizen science really influenced my work as an artist. I started kind of applying the same ideas as citizen science to my art practice, meaning that because there are these pretty amazing people in the local birding community, and there's a lot of exciting, wonderful, positive things happening, and because I happen to be here, I'm documenting them in the form of art. And I may not be the best person to do it, but the fact is I'm here. and I'm actually doing it. So it doesn't matter who's the best candidate to do it. I'm the one who's doing it. And that's kind of how it works with bird survey project. Like you don't have to be an expert birder because you're here and you're gonna actually do it. That's what matters. And so to join the away team, it's really not that difficult. So many people I've noticed only takes notes in their notebook or take even mental notes about what they see or heard bird-wise. But even if you're not an expert birder, if you submit your sightings, it's going to add up to the database that scientists can use. And so your observation has power, your report has power. And this is a photo I took at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. It's in Ithaca, and they have this amazing newly renovated, I think, a visitor center with lots of interactive exhibits and stuff. And that shows people around the globe submitting their sightings via eBird app. eBird app is something you can download on your phone, and it's pretty easy to use it. And you can just, if you're watching birds in your backyard drinking coffee, you can just kind of type it in and submit it, and that actually adds to this number that this says eBird checklist today submitted 33,299 from all over the world. That's a big number. That's when it comes together like that, that's the power of the people, I feel. But this kind of power of people couldn't happen if each individual are not aware how much actually it's powerful for you to submit your sightings. And if you dismiss it as, well, I'm not an expert birder, I may be mistaken, it doesn't really matter, then we're not going to have this kind of number, we're not going to have this kind of database. So I think it's really important for us to recognize the actual power that we have. And Cornell made it really easy to do it. Again, you can download the eBird app if you don't know about it. Half of this room knows and been using it much longer than I have. But if you happen to not be familiar with it yet, you can just download that app and set it up. And again, it doesn't matter what your skill level is, because you're the one who's there today. You're the one who's here now. You're the one who's doing it today, here, now. And so I think it's important to realize that. And if you get more interested in bird conservation work, there's lots more information in this zine that I'm providing as a list and in the interviews too. And I sort of came to realize that the theme of the power of the people is actually a thread that's sort of present throughout my career as an artist. I started making art influenced by the Mingei folk art movement, the Japanese folk art movement. It was started in the early 20th century, and it was founded by a guy named Yanagi Soetsu. Yanagi is his last name, Soetsu is his first name. And he's the founder of the movement, and he wrote that beauty comes from selflessness. This selflessness is a concept we call mushin. It can be translated as mind without mind or no mind. And he believed that such beauty of selflessness often resides in everyday object made by anonymous craftsmen for ordinary people rather than elite collectors or museums. And so he in his books he talks a lot about aesthetics, like what he defines to be beauty and all that. But he also talks about the folk art as an embodiment of the power of the people. And I'm going to quote what he wrote, some of what he wrote, which I translated with the help of apps, so it may not be 100%. This is not an official translation. But why must I break my silence and speak of the significance of folk crafts? Because the beauty of folk crafts is almost entirely unrecognized. Moreover, the qualities and significance they embody receive no attention whatsoever. Whether examining the history of crafts or the state of collecting, one is struck by how little regard folk crafts receive. Folk crafts are nothing rare. Everyone should see and know them, yet they still lack proper recognition. One reason may be that they are so familiar that people don't bother to look at them anew. Furthermore, the general view of beauty is conventional and lacks creativity. I dare to speak of the world of folk crafts precisely because people's eyes are too close to its beauty. And similarly, I think the power of each individual, or even your bird reporting, is often undervalued in the society that really worships celebrities and the powerful, in the society where we constantly see in the news headline about what some famous person did that or said that and all that stuff. But again, there are people who are making contributions in our own community without making a grand statement. And I find the bird survey is one of that. And those people who are actually making contributions, they exist in every group of our community. And so I want to, that's what I want to honor through my art, because these people really restore my faith in ourselves, really. And I want more spotlights to shine on these people who are here in our own community. And I think it's important for artists to use our creativity to, celebrate and honor those people who may not be making a grand statement, but actually doing a job, kind of like a bard would do for their king. But I do it for the people. And so with that aim, the Beakuency art zine is in the process of printing right now, and I don't have the actual copy today. I wish I did, but this is a kind of a hard proof. It's a test print kind of thing, and I'm getting the Pro printer in Hudson to print it, and so hopefully in a week or two, hoping in a week that it's going to be available to take over. So when you find it at your library, please pick up one copy. And I'm already working on the volume 2 of this zine, which is going to focus on farmers who are making rooms for wildlife and birds. So I have to make it happen. I don't know where the money comes from, but I'm believing that somewhere, somehow, it's going to happen. And if you'd like to get updates on this project, you can do so by, you can sign up my newsletter at beakuency.substack.com. And lastly, some of you have wondered, what's the Beakuency, Kenneth? And actually, Bonnie made a nice introduction, so I didn't have to make this slide. But Beakuency, Meet Bird People in the Hudson Valley, is a radio program that invites the local community to be inspired by the joy, beauty, and wisdom bird enthusiasts find in the nature of our neighborhoods. Every episode features an interview with local bird people, plus a freeform mix of sounds made by birds and humans inspired by birds. And it broadcasts on Waveform's WGXC 90.7 FM. 90.7 FM sometimes have a hard time going through, so you can listen on wgxc.org. That's our studio in Accra. And so I air this program on 4th Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And so all the interviews in this scene actually were produced and aired on the radio first. And so I'm putting it together as a magazine form. So I hope you will tune in. And that was going to be my last slide, but I received a question, like, so what is this anyway? Like, what are these artwork made of, and how is it made? So I'm going to make that slide right here now to show you how that happens. So this is I'm making the stencil. It's like basically paper cutout, if you can see. This is like an X-Acto knife. And I'm cutting paper on a cutting mat. And then well, actually, let me show you this. This is what the actual stencil looks like. So you can see that there's like an open windows, like cutout part. And then I go out and collect rocks. And by using the what's that called, sandpaper, you can kind of see what the colors would look like. So that's what I'm doing. So I'll have some ideas of what would look like. And then make the pigments, doing the filter, and then use a binder. In this photo, I'm using what's that called? The yellow part of the, what's that?
Egg yolk?
Egg yolk. So you can use egg yolk as a binder, but you can also use gum arabic and some other things. And then that's how I'm painting. I had this bunch of eggs because a farmer gave me all these eggs that were like covered in poop, chicken poop, so he couldn't sell it, so he gave it to me. So I happen to have tons of egg yolk. But so that's how, using the brush that's sort of like a straight edge, and then sort of pounce on the stencil. So right now there's I don't know if you can see it, but the paper cut is overlapped with the piece of paper underneath. So there's 2 layers now, and painting over the stencil. And then this is what the result looks like. So that's how it's made. So that's my presentation.
Thank you, and we can have questions and answers. I'll turn on lights.
So Mayuko, really in the Beakuency Zine, all the pigments are really from Columbia County then, are they? Or from around here?
In Hudson Valley.
The Hudson Valley. Yeah.
Some of them are from maybe Greene County, but mostly Greene, Columbia County, I think.
How many times can you use the stencil before it falls apart?
It depends how I make it. If I use like a drawing paper, which is really easy to cut and it doesn't hurt my neck, but you can't paint it too many times with it. Maybe you can do it maybe 10 times, but anything more than that is, then it starts to fall apart. So I don't like to use the plastic mylar sheets. It's usually what people use to make stencil, but it's very hard, and it's also plastic, so I'm not too crazy about it. There's a paper, what's that called? There's a strange watercolor paper that's very like, I should remember the name of the paper, but it's a watercolor paper that's sort of made of synthetic materials, and it's so easy to cut it, but it's got the strength of almost plastic quality. So that's the Yupo paper is what it's called. So that's what I'm using recently. Made in Japan.
Do you often make several copies of the same stencil?
Well, that was the idea,
Yeah.
but not necessarily. And every time I make it, it's going to be different. That piece I had to make gazillions of times because that particular American Robin piece was on the Audubon magazine. It was featured on Audubon magazine, so a bunch of people wanted to buy it. So it was worth having a stencil so you can reproduce a lot. But probably that was the only time it was worth making it as a stencil. But I think it helps me to keep the prices affordable. Some of you have been to my show at Kinderhook Library show. and I had a series of 8x10 sizes of a series called Birds of Hudson Valley. And even when people buy it, I can make it again and put it on the wall, and some people bought it again. So that's the opportunity, that's the kind of situation when making the stencil makes sense. But the idea was to keep the prices affordable. I want the art piece to be accessible to everybody. So that's where the idea of stencil came from.
Beakuency.
Yes.
What does it mean?
It's beak and frequency.
And frequency in terms of frequency
radio.
of seeing the birds or radio frequency?
The radio frequency.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a radio show.
Right. I thought of it as
Okay.
frequency also in terms of pitch, bird song.
Oh, I could add that. I didn't think it, but.
Now it is.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, and obviously the entire process includes the interviews and everything.
Mhm.
But from when you get the idea for what you wanted, well, okay, so I'm asking about length of time from start to finish on a piece of work. But
Painting wise?
or the stenciling ones. So do you do drawings first and
Mhm.
kind of work it out until you come up with what you want to do as your stencil? Or?
Right. I do draft in digital form. I don't know if I have the, it also came off, but,
Oh, I
well,
think
yeah, but I do it digitally.
There it is.
The draft digitally. I don't know if I have any examples of that kind of. Well, maybe this is not the perfect example, but oops, a bunch of stuff in the background. You know, this is something I can do digitally, and if I wanted to change the angle of the beak or whatever, then I can work on it digitally, so I don't have to cut it and then not like it and then cut it again. So I really figure out the composition and the shape and everything in the digital draft, and then print it out, and then put it on top of Yupo paper or whatever the choice of the stencil material, and then cut it all at once and creates the stencil.
Okay, I don't want to steal other people's time, but I have another question. With the cutting, is doing the cutting a part of the process for you, or like if you were to use one of the Cricut cutters to do the cutting for you, would that be fine, or no, that would take away?
Depends on the project. I like cutting paper,
Mhm.
so I like to do that. And also, I've tried Cricut before, and it doesn't really, it's hard to create the digital file that cuts exactly the way I want it to.
Mhm.
It actually takes a lot more adjustment. It's much faster to cut it with hands. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Unless you have a high-end, maybe not Cricut, but
Yeah.
a high-end laser printer or something. Even then, I think you still have to figure out the perfect, I don't know, SVG file, whatever it's called. So yeah, that's a different challenge.
I know you've experimented a little bit with plant pigments as well. Are you still doing that, or are you back to the rocks?
Well, I'm going to do that in Chatham Valley Farm.
Okay.
So what's happening, this is really in the planning stage of it all, but Chatham Valley Farm just opened a biodiversity trail. I'm sure many of you have seen the news, but and because I interviewed Spencer Fenneman, who's the farm manager in this zine, I was chatting with him and he saw my work and he said, would you be interested in doing something for the bird biodiversity trail? And it was pretty open suggestion, like he didn't say what exactly he wanted me to do, but so the idea that I'm planning on is they're eliminating a lot of invasive species along the trail, and so to utilize that somehow to create the pigments using those materials. And the idea is the plant pigments doesn't last too long. It's the light fastness issue. You know, it just, this color, it fades away maybe in a few months or in a year if it's in a strong sun. But the idea is that I come back to farm every year, just like farmers plant things, and then the plants being, the crops being harvest it, and no farmers just plant things and let it, leave it alone. You have to tend it, you have to come back. And so the idea is to use the natural pigment, create the mural that fades away, and then I come back and paint it over again using a different material that's sourced in a different year. So the color changes every year. But because I'm making stencil, I can come back with the same stencil and paint it over, so I don't have to figure out from scratch. So I'm very excited about that
Oh,
idea.
that's neat.
Yeah.
And how do you, your birds with wings spread out or different flights, how do you look at Cornell bird site
Yeah.
pictures to see
Yeah.
how they fly and
Yeah.
get the idea from real
Try
life? of course.
anyway. Yeah, you need a reference. You wouldn't just know.
So when you say that you create them digitally, do you have a stylus that you're using on an iPad?
iPad, yeah.
Okay.
So you referenced the cost, obviously, of printing such a large zine, which is, I mean, it's beautiful, but are you going to distribute digital copies of it as well?
I will too, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, the audio file is going to be available, so people who cannot read it, for whatever reason, the vision problem, whatever, they can listen to the interviews online.
Neat.
Yeah.
And that would be the actual interviews?
What's that?
That would be the actual interviews that you did for the radio?
So yeah, on the Beakuency website, the beakuencysubstack.com, it has the transcript and the audio files. So yeah. Is that Ben Nickley sitting over there?
Hi. This is really cool. It seems like birds are central to the zine, Beakuency, your radio show, and that's a good point of connection, I guess, for building community. And it seems like a community building project of sorts.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of starting out. I think it's a really cool endeavor, and I like your message of what you're saying of like, I'm here, like I have my skills and your artistic skills and your interests, and you're just bringing that to bear in a way that's come together for this magazine. I think it could be successful. I wonder if you have, probably many of us here are birders, right? Have interest in birds, but I mean, you have this like artistic talent too, and you must have many artist friends and things like that. It just seems like you have kind of the ability to connect with a broad set of people.
That's the whole
Yeah, and so I just wonder, you're at, I guess this is just a local library and anything, but are you connecting with like the arts communities and stuff like that, and getting people excited about maybe birds that didn't even think about birds at all, like Hudson folks that are more interested in fine arts and stuff like that, or whatever else?
Yeah, that's a great question. I should think about art sort of locations. The Create Council on the Arts going to have an open house event in the next month. That's the organization who funded this series of presentation here at the library, and also this zine. And so they have a big community of local artists in Greene and Columbia County. And so I'm going to distribute my zine in their events, but I should think about, I'm going to distribute it at the Farm and Flea, which is the holiday market kind of thing, in Hudson. But that place doesn't have always local people. It's people traveling. So I'm kind of debating where would be the good idea. So if any of you have a good idea, I'd love to hear it. Like artsy locations, I should look into that. Because that's where I would like to reach out to people who, I'm trying to convert people into this. There's no point in having this zine in a place where already converted population comes. So I should think about it.
But also by interviewing different people, like that have different interests or whatever, I feel like you can connect with a broader audience that way too. And seems cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Neat. One local place that comes to mind, which would mostly have traffic from visitors, but local people as well, would be the Hudson Hall, that used to be Hudson Opera House,
On the Warren
And
Street?
also the Hudson Library.
and the library.
Hudson Library, definitely,
Hudson
yeah.
Hall,
Because they could have your book and maybe do they do exhibits at the Hudson Hall.
Well, you have a relationship with art online, that's a natural convergence of people who are interested in the arts and people who are interested in taking a walk through nature. And
That's true.
so again, I think.
I know some people that aren't online.
Yeah, and
I
that's
do
there are a number of, I
definitely-
mean, I know that you distributed your greeting cards at places like Alana and Thomas Cole House, and I think that's a foot in the door for conversations with those people about distribution of the zine.
Alana could be other
And
place.
it's not a bad thing if people from outside of the region are also, engaging with your message.
Right.
But a lot of those places are, to Ben's point, are not just bird people, but are more culturally aware, including, a sort of environmental awareness.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
that's it.
And another place I think of is the Albany Institute of History and Art. It's a museum in Albany,
Oh,
and they have quite a few, the original Hudson River painters and so forth. I think they'd be interested in things about the Hudson Valley.
yeah, the challenges.
I think the New York State Museum could give a jolt to them.
Right.
And the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, right next to Central Park. They have burrows, they have a platform, the American Museum of Natural History.
You need
Worldwide.
I need more money to print that much copies.
I need contact and let them put it on their website or their
Do you have contact?
publicize you there.
Do you have contact? I need contact.
I know the curator.
Oh, great.
Also, our librarian,
Yeah.
her previous job was with the Botanical Garden.
Okay.
New York
New York
Botanical
State
Garden.
Botanical Garden, which would have
Beautiful.
interest in the birds.
But how do you think it could work? This is really focused on Columbia County.
That's okay.
We don't care.
Another thing, Mayuko, that I was impressed with, what was the word, you had the kanji up, or the
Mige.
Mige. So, I studied for a little bit in Japan, theater
That's right.
and music, and my sense was always that all the art forms in Japan are connected to meditation in one form or another. And it seems that your work is also, from what you were saying about folk art and mind without mind.
I mean, I wouldn't say I mastered it because it's a lifelong practice.
Of course.
And so I'm not like, this is not much of a spiritual practice, but it's just something I do. But there is the Zen philosophy is really the foundation of so much of the Japanese culture and aesthetic, which really is to appreciate here and the now kind of thing. That you appreciate this moment. It's special that you exist, not because you're an amazing person, but the fact that you exist now is amazing. That's kind of the.
I just have a very short story. So I was a teaching artist, and I would take children out, and so this was with I believe a 4th grade, long time ago, writing haiku. And the kids spread out in the woods, to write their own poems. And one little girl came up to me very upset because while I was introducing it, she had been watching one particular kind of, butterfly or something. And the butterfly had left. And I said, no, you have to write about what you see at the moment that you're writing. So she went back and sat there and later came to me after the class as they were gathering to come back to the classroom with sort of pussy willows, petting it, and so excited that she had found this new thing at the moment that she sat down and began to look again. So it's sort of what you're saying about the here and the now.
She could have write about the loss of the butterfly.
Right.
That we keep saying that not seeing bird is also a data. That the
Right.
birds for not being around in certain location is not nothing. It means something, so it's a valuable data. So, yeah.
Mayuko,
Yes.
you, on one of the sites I looked at, you had written about the robins
Mhm.
and how people noticed, a group of people noticed that the robins weren't there yet. It was a very good story.
Oh,
And-
during the COVID.
Was it during COVID?
That was during
Okay.
COVID. So I spent my lockdown in Brooklyn, and I only had one window facing, thankfully not to the street, but it's in the sort of the back of the building, and I can look down at like some people's backyard, and it's not. I didn't see too many different birds, but I would see like cardinals and stuff like that. But I didn't see robin, and it was March, so I kept thinking that I should see robin, and there was no robin through this limited window, like literal limited window, and just didn't see it for several weeks. And I came to realize how much I was taking robins for granted. Because before that incident, I would always like see them and be like, "Oh, you again?" It's like
Right.
that's what everybody says when they see robins, and then it's like, "Oh, that's a robin. Sorry." That's what you say.
Also, you also talk about, climate change and, discuss it with farmers and things like that. And so a lot of the birds I hear on Rich Guthrie's program, that everything's changing, bird patterns.
Right, I've been learning from the people mostly sitting here that their ranges are changing because
Yeah.
the climate's been changing.
Yeah.
But if you have more technical questions, I'll refer to professionals here. So.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, but it's mostly, if anybody deserves to be called citiot, that would be me. Because I was born in the suburb and I grew up in the city, and this is my first time living in a rural area, and I'm just amazed by like pretty much every single person. Like, how do you know so much about hunting? How do you know so much about plants? How do you know so much about insects? Like everything. Not even like botanists or like professionals. Like just regular people hanging around there. They know a lot. And so my role is to just sit there and ask questions and let people talk. And that's pretty much how I approach this interview. I'm going into these interviews most of the time not really knowing the entirety of the ideas that people are going to discuss. I do my homework, but I don't claim to know anything. And that's, I think, my role, to represent people who don't know. Like, I know how ignorant one can be when you're a beginner, or when you're just didn't grow up with it. Some of the things that we don't know, some really ridiculous things. Like when I started birding, I didn't know to use binoculars, which I think is kind of ridiculous now, but that's how much you may not know if you were not familiar. And I remember those kind of, dumb state of life, so I can ask people basic questions. So anyhow, sorry.
Oh, I have to put a plug in for John Burroughs, whose house is over by Kingston's Lab Sites. A famous nature writer, one of the first. And if you don't know John Burroughs, you should look him up. Burroughs, I think. But one of his quotes that I always harken back to is, if you want to see something new, go where you've gone before. And that's like that little girl, she went and then she saw something new. But if you want to see something new, go where you've been before.
That makes sense. Because you may not have been equipped with the perspectives or knowledge that enable you to see it. That's my experience with birding too. The more I know, the more I see and
You
hear.
see you in new eyes.
Yeah, and new years.
Mayuko, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.